The final matches of the VCT Americas Stage 2 before playoffs have concluded, and it's time for us to look at those matches and see what implications they have on the standings. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, and today we're talking about the last weekend of the VCT Americas Stage 2. Next up is playoffs, so a lot of the matches during this weekend didn't have a ton of weight, but standings and championship points are still very important, so some of these matches did have a lot of weight. So this is the board we have today, starting with the first match of the weekend, which was Crew versus C9. This was Crew finally getting their first victory of Stage 2, beating C9 2-0. C9 had a solid bounce back game against Energy, but against Crew, they didn't look the same. Crew were looking much more like their Stage 1 selves, and C9 were looking much like how they've looked early in this stage. Funny enough, these two teams will be facing each other in playoffs, so maybe both of them are going to look back on this match to see what the other team was doing. Starting with map 1, we have Icebox, which was a 13-7 win in favor of Crew. Pretty back and forth first half, with Crew ending it with a 2-round win streak to make it 7-5, and after winning the pistol, Crew were able to keep the momentum in that second half on their defense side. Then moving on to map 2, which has been a problem for Crew. They really haven't been able to close out games in 2 or 3, but they would be able to get it done here, winning this one 13-10. C9 would start with winning the pistol, but then Crew would get 3 rounds of their own and keep most of the momentum. Same score as last map, 7-5 at the half. C9 would get the pistol this time. A bit of a back and forth second half, but Crew would hold on to the momentum and win this one. Looking at the team MVPs on the side of Crew, we have Kesnet, of course, going 41, 25, and 10 for plus 16. Then on the side of C9, Oxy went 39, 38, and 8 for plus 1. So for Crew fans, this was what you've been wanting to see for this team. They have been looking very mediocre this split, but them finally getting a win against a team in their group is very important and shows that there is still some gas left in this team. Playoffs is going to be very important with them. They of course bowed out pretty early in the playoffs from stage 1, so they will be looking to prove doubters wrong. Thankfully, they are going up against C9, a team that they just beat. But for C9, the fact that they lost is probably going to motivate them to try extra hard during that match. They of course had a very bad performance in the stage 1 playoffs, losing 2-0 to G2, so they will be looking to flip the script and show that this team can be dangerous in a playoff bracket. We'll see how it goes against these two teams, but for now, Crew has the upper hand. Moving on to the Saturday matches, we have MIBR versus Evil Geniuses. This was MIBR finally getting a win in the VCT Americas regular season. MIBR has not had a win since kickoff, and they finally would get one in pretty dominant fashion against Evil Geniuses. Evil Geniuses, with their playoff hopes in the dust at this point, just didn't seem as motivated to make this much of a game. MIBR just playing for pride at this point, so they were much more motivated than Evil Geniuses, and they really showed it. Looking at map 1, we have Bind, which would be a 13-9 win in favor of MIBR. EG would start off strong by winning the pistol and the second round, but then MIBR would go on a 4-round win streak. First half ends 7-5 in favor of MIBR, while EG would get the pistol and the next one to tie it up. MIBR would get 4 again, and then a bit of back and forth to end it, but MIBR were able to close it out in round 22. Then on Lotus, we have the clearest example of MIBR being much more motivated to win this game. Really seemed like Evil Geniuses just wanted it to be over at this point because they lost this one 13-2 on Lotus. MIBR would start it very strong, winning the first 6 rounds in a row. Evil Geniuses would get 1, but another 4-round wins in a row for MIBR would end the half with Evil Geniuses just stealing 1 more. So MIBR only needed 3, they would get it, and the match was over. Looking at the team MVPs on the side of MIBR, we have Artzine, who has had a pretty good stage 2. He went 31, 21, and 13 for plus 10. On the side of Evil Geniuses, Derek had a decent match, going 30, 28, and 11 for plus 2. So this was the match of no consequence. Both of these teams were already out of playoffs, so it wasn't much of a surprise to see this kind of lopsided score because MIBR, of course, were looking for something to just end their split off in a decent way, while EG, after losing to 100 Thieves, had their playoff hopes in the dust. EG is a much better team than losing it in the fashion that they did, but really just seemed like Potter just couldn't get them up for this last match, which is fair, but at the same time, you're hoping that these players can end their stage looking pretty good to at least entice teams to sign them in the offseason. Highly unlikely that both of these rosters stay exactly the same as how they ended this stage going into next year, but that is a conversation for another time. Moving on to the second game of Saturday, this was another match with no consequence because Leviatan had already locked up the top seed, but they were able to defeat FURIA in a 2-0 fashion. FURIA has had a pretty good stage stage 2, but going up against Leviatan is a taller task than most. Leviatan have looked very good this stage. They have not dropped a map, so they're looking to get into playoffs in a very strong fashion. And going against FURIA kind of just felt like a warm-up match for them, and they were able to get it done pretty dominantly. And this would be shown early with Sunset being 13-6 in favor of Leviatan. 8-4 at the half with FURIA looking like they have some signs of life and they would win the pistol and the next one, but then 5 rounds in a row to end map 1 from Leviatan. Then we would have the exact same scoreline on Icebox, this one being 13-6 as well. 7-5 in favor of Leviatan at the half, so a little bit closer, but then Leviatan would just go on a 5-round win streak. They would lose one, but they would get the last one that they needed. Looking at the team MVPs on the side of Leviatan, we have Ospas going 42, 18, and 10 for plus 24. And on the side of FURIA, we have Noswer playing his former team for the first time, going 26, 27, 7 for -1. So again, this was a match of no consequence. Leviatan already had the top seed in all of Americas locked up, so this didn't really matter much. And FURIA, much like MIBR, just playing for pride at this point, but it was at least a decent match. It wasn't a complete blowout, but, you know, only winning 12 rounds in total, not the greatest. So we'll see where FURIA goes, and Leviatan, they're just getting warmed up. Moving on to the Sunday matches, we have Loud versus 100 Thieves. Loud's playoff chances were already gone, so it didn't really matter if they had won or not, and for 100 Thieves, it didn't really matter for seeding either. But then Loud would win this one 2-1, showing that even though it's a game of no consequence, they still want to prove people wrong about them. 100 Thieves definitely not looking as sharp on this one. It doesn't have huge consequences for them, but those championship points are very important. If they would have won this one, I believe they would be tied in championship points with Sentinels, which would have been very helpful for them heading into playoffs. Instead, now their champs chances aren't guaranteed, partially because of this game. And it's odd that this match turned out the way that it did, because early on it felt like this was going to be a very quick match, because 100 Thieves would win the first map 13-1. 11 rounds in a row for 100 Thieves, and then Loud would get the only one they had. 2 in a row for 100 Thieves on the second half, and it's over. And we head into Bind, a map that 100 Thieves have been very good on this year, so it looks like we're probably going to end it early, but nope, Loud would win this one 13-8. 100 Thieves would start strong with a 4-1 lead at round 5, but then Loud would tie it at the half 6-6, and then after winning the pistol, they had all the momentum. They would go on a 4-round winning streak, and then after losing one, they would win in round 21 to end the map. Then on Lotus, Loud would get it done 13-10. 100 Thieves yet again start off pretty strong with a 3-round win streak to start, but then Loud would go on a 3-round win streak of their own. Then they would have 4 in a row with 100 Thieves winning one at the end to end the half 7-5. 100 Thieves start out the second half strong by going on 2 separate 2-round win streaks, but Loud would swing it back in their favor. Looking at the team MVPs on the side of Loud, we have Pankata, who has been pretty good this stage. He went 46, 38, and 24 for +8. On the side of 100 Thieves, we have Cryocells going 51, 36, and 15 for +15. So for 100 Thieves, this definitely does concern me a little bit about their playoff chances. Obviously, they weren't as focused as maybe they have been in previous matches, but their stage overall has been pretty mediocre. They were able to get the 2 wins that they needed to secure playoffs, but this team needs to show some forward momentum, and losing in the way that they did against Loud after having a 1-map lead, definitely a little bit concerning, but again, I'm not going to give them too much trouble for it. It just would have been nice for them to try really hard to get that championship points, but did not happen. And this would end Loud's season, at least for them it ends on a win, but I don't think Loud fans are going to be looking back at 2024 in a positive way. So moving on to the last game of the weekend, the main course of the weekend, we have G2 versus Sentinels. So this definitely had big implications for playoffs. Whoever won this match was going to be guaranteed the 2nd seed in Americas, which would mean that they wouldn't have to go through the knockout stage, so they wouldn't be in single elimination. And if Sentinels had won this, it would have secured their spot for champions. It is still pretty unlikely with the amount of points that Sentinels has that they're going to not make it to champs, but there are still scenarios where Sentinels could bow out. And they definitely tried to win this one. They threw out some wacky comps to throw off G2, but it did not work. G2 played incredibly well during this match. They were in control the whole time. Valen was out calling John QT a lot, and it just looked like G2 were a lot more in sync than Sentinels were. Looking at map 1, we have Bind, which would be a 13-6 win in favor of G2. G2 winning the pistol and getting the bonus then would flip the momentum in their favor a little bit by going on a 4-round win streak, but then G2 winning 7 rounds in a row on their attack side to end this one. Sentinels not being able to stop that smothering attack from G2. Also, just to point it out, this was the match of tech pauses. I believe we had 3 tech pauses, 2 to start the match, and then 1, I believe, at like round 17, which basically just completely killed any chance of Sentinels really having momentum to come back, because now you're just sitting there for a solid 15 minutes. I do feel bad for the Riot production crew, but you can't have this happening in this big of a match. Anyways, moving on to Lotus, this would be a 13-9 win in favor of G2, showing once again that their defense on Lotus is what makes them so dangerous on this map. They would start off strong by winning the first 2 rounds. Sen would tie it up though, but then 4 rounds in a row for G2 to take the lead. Bit of a back and forth to end the half, but it's 8-4 in favor of G2. So Sentinel's not able to get a lot on their attack side on Lotus, which has been their main part of that map. Defense definitely not being as strong. They would win 5 rounds on their defense side, but just was not enough. G2 would get 5 rounds of their own 2 in this match, and G2 have the 2nd place spot locked up in Americas. Looking at the team MVPs on the side of G2, we have Icy, who had a very incredible performance, going 41, 26, and 5 for plus 15. Then on the side of Sentinels, we have John QT with a decent match. He went 29, 27, and 8 for plus 2. Really impressed with what I saw from G2 during this match. They really wanted that 2nd seed, and they got it locked down in pretty convincing fashion. For Sentinels, this definitely is not the result that you wanted, but hey, this meant that they are playing 100 Thieves in the playoff bracket, and they typically absolutely beat that team every time. So maybe this was a 3D chess move for Sentinels to knock out 100 Thieves early. That could be the case, but either way, I'm just kidding. That's not what happened. But Sentinels definitely not looking as strong in this match. Hopefully for them, they can clean up some of the inconsistencies they had in this match and can look strong for playoffs. But them losing this match means that they don't lock up that championship spot, so they better be ready for playoffs, because this team has a chance to miss it out. Highly doubt Sentinels fans are going to be able to keep using the "we won Madrid" excuse when they don't make champions, because yeah, you won Madrid, but if you don't look very good for the rest of the year, was that a flash in the pan, or was the team actually good? I'm not saying that's what I think. I think Sentinels are a very good team, but they really needed to get this one done, and they weren't able to do it. So those are the final matches of the regular season stage. We now have the playoffs coming up. I will be doing a video on my bracket, doing all my pick'ems for the playoff stage. So look out for that, and let me know in the comment section down below what you thought of all these matches. Please click like if you enjoyed the video. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.